I feel like a teenage girl who wants like a giant poster of Jesper hugging the goat with little like hearts on it and just like hang it on my wall and get a daily dose of serotonin from it. Hey everyone, welcome back to Rima Reads. So I just finished Shadow and Bone and I have so many thoughts. Oh my god, I got to see the love of my life, Inej, on the screen, and she's so beautiful and perfect and I love her so much. Oh my god. So yeah, I have so many thoughts on this show, so we're gonna do a whole ass review video now. Yeah, let's go. Let's review this show. If you've been following my channel for a while, you know Six of Crows is one of my favorite books of all time. I have not read the Grisha trilogy, and I have no intention on reading the Grisha trilogy ever. But I have read Wikipedia summary articles on everything that happens, as well as watched a lot of review videos on the trilogy. So part of the reason I decided not to ever read the Grisha trilogy is because I know I won't like those books. I have it from very trusted sources that I will not like those books, and I just had no intention of reading a book that I wouldn't like. Not to hate on anyone who does like that book, like it's totally valid if you do. It's just, I don't think it would be my style. And so the show, I had pretty low expectations for the Shadow and Bone portion of the show, but I will say that it was very, very entertaining and I thought it was really well done. I am a Mal-Lena shipper now. They were so cute. The entire show, they were adorable. I love how Mal and Alina were always fighting for each other and always looking out for each other. I loved everything about that so much. So yeah, I'm a Mal-Lena shipper now, but I love them. They're so cute. But I really actually was not horrified. I guess not horrified. What's the right word? Okay, so like the idea of Darkling and Alina is so nasty to me in the book because she's like 16 and he's like a geriatric old ass man. But I thought it was very well done in the TV show. Like the fact that it was shown how he was manipulating her the entire time. Like I knew that was coming, but like it was so well done. The actors had really good chemistry that you don't, I feel like if you weren't someone who read the books, you wouldn't have seen that coming, you know what I mean? And how Alina felt so betrayed after that moment. Like, I really appreciated how the show handled the ships, because I think that's the main reason why I don't want to read the Grisha trilogy, is because of the ships. I think aging up Alina also, you know, made her and the Darklings a romance not so nasty. And so that was a good call on the writer's parts. The actors were all really, really great. Like they all did such a good job. I really loved the fact that they changed Alina's ethnicity and made her half Shuhan, and cast an Asian actress for it. I think that really brought a lot of aspects of the story. Like it made it deeper, I guess, with Alina always feeling like left out and not being part of anything, because she was left out her entire life because of her race. And it also like strengthens the Mal and Alina bond, as they're like two of the only people of color in this white country, and how they always had to like protect each other and stand up for each other because of that. And so I thought that was such a good move. And of course we love more diversity, and it was just so amazing to see like an Asian actress be the lead of this great TV show. I loved that so much. I was kind of shook that Zoya was a bitch, because like when she shows up in Crooked Kingdom, she seems pretty cool. But now at least I know who Zoya and Genya are now. So when they show up in Crooked Kingdom, I'm not like, what? Why are you guys relevant at all? So that's fun. Now I have some context on them. But yeah, I think that's my like biggest thoughts on the Shadow and Bone part of the TV show, was that it was good. It was fun. I liked it. So next, I guess, moving on to how they intersected Shadow and Bone and Six of Crows. So I think the fact that Leigh Bardugo told us beforehand that this is going to be like an AU fanfiction sort of prequel to Six of Crows really, really helped me. I feel like if I didn't know that going in, I would have been so disappointed or so confused. But because the writers and Leigh and like everyone just basically made sure to let us know that in advance, it definitely made it just seem really, really fun. No one was expecting a faithful book to TV show adaptation for this, and I think that's a good expectation to have going in, because I thought it was so much fun. I loved seeing the crows, but like, it's completely, totally different from their storyline in the books. Like, it was wild to me seeing Kaz and the Darkling in the same place, like fighting each other. That was insane. That would never ever be a thing in the books at all. Like, and seeing Inej and Jesper like fight Grisha in Ravka and all of these things, like, because I knew it was going to be this AU fanfiction, like, I wasn't mad about it. I was like, okay, this is what we're seeing now. It's chill, it's fine. While obviously I would love a faithful book to TV show adaptation, I enjoyed, like, the plot changes were fine. I totally understand why they had to do it, and I thought they were fun. There wasn't anything in terms of the actual, like, overall Six of Crows, Shadow and Bone intersection that I like hated. They were all very, very fun.
Hey friends, future editing Rima here. I just wanted to make it clear, because I don't think it was in this video, that I 100% wish that we got a separate Shadow and Bone season and a separate Six of Crows season, and they did not merge the storylines at all. I think that would have greatly benefited both the Shadow and Bone portion of the show and the Six of Crows portion of the show. Because for like Shadow and Bone, we didn't have time to, like, you know, go really in depth on the Ravkan politics, so some parts of the show could be confusing. Every time they talk about different parts of Ravka, I was like, I don't even know where those are. Like, yeah, y'all don't even show me a map, okay? And they also like didn't explain all the Grisha orders super well or in depth in the show, and I think that's something that they could have added and definitely expanded on if they didn't have all the Six of Crows parts in the Shadow and Bone Grishaverse Shadow and Bone section. And then of course Six of Crows was completely different, and like, I wish we could have just had a faithful adaptation of Six of Crows and just had their own entire show. Like, tonally, both parts of their shows felt very different too. Like, Shadow and Bone was much more serious, much more high fantasy-esque, versus like Six of Crows, they like definitely had like those fast moving cameras and a lighter tone at some points, and it was like heist and like gang, and it just, they felt very different. And of course toward the end, as the storylines merge, it gets more together, but we could have had them stay separate and it would have been better than what we got, you know what I mean? I also wonder, and if you guys haven't like read the book and you've watched the show, like, let me know, like, was it confusing for non-book readers to watch this show? Because I feel like it might have been, just because of all of the, you know, characters that are introduced and the jumping back and forth and things like that. So I definitely in this video look at the bright side of things, of like, this is what we got and what we got was fun. But like, I 100% really wish that we got a faithful adaptation, that they didn't combine the storylines. And I think that would have made the show 100 times better. Like, it was good, but it could have been amazing. So yeah, anyways, back to the video.
Now I want to talk about my characters, the crows, and what I thought of them. There are some parts for their individual storylines, which I genuinely really liked how they did in the show, and then other parts where I'm like, why'd you change this thing? Why'd you change this thing? Anyways, let's go into it. And first, we'll talk about Jesper, because I loved him. He's definitely the one that I think they got the most spot on in terms of characterization. They did a really good job of making him like easily distracted during missions and like going off onto his own, but then always pulling through at the end, because that's what Jesper does, and that's what makes the whole thing that goes down in Six of Crows like so much more, you know, bad, because Jesper's addiction is finally getting to him such that he can't help his friends or pull through even though he's getting distracted and all of that, and that's what kind of spurs on his growth. So I liked how in this prequel they show him, you know, going through those same things, but it always works out in the end. Kit Young did an amazing job playing Jesper. I just like the intro scene where he shoots that coin in the air with his bullets was great, and I loved the entire like conductor train sequence where they're going through the fold and Jesper's like hugging his goat. Jesper and Milo the goat is truly the best thing that came out of this show. I loved that so much. Amazing. And then he goes and just shoots everything. They did such a good job with Jesper and his guns, and they also like did an amazing job like playing to what's revealed in Crooked Kingdom about Jesper. Like if you're a book reader, you can see the allusions to that in the show sprinkled around, but if you've only watched the show, like you wouldn't catch that at all, and I think that's so fun. I love how they dropped hints for us book readers in the show, and I think, you know, show watchers, like once that reveal comes, they'll definitely be coming back and rewatching, you know, season 1 and be like, oh my god, there were hints everywhere. And so I really enjoyed that a lot. I loved Jesper and Inej's relationship throughout this show. I think they did a great job showing their relationship and how they're such great friends. Inej is talking about leaving and she's like, Jesper, you make this harder. And I was just like, yes, friendship. Their friendship is so good, and I think the show did a really good job showing the dynamic between the two. I was quite sad when Jesper like sleeps with that random stable hand, because I was like, bro, I know you haven't met Waylon yet, but you're cheating on your husband, and that's just rude. Like, can you not? I know you guys haven't met yet, but can you not? So I thought that was unnecessary. I didn't need that in my life. I'm just waiting for Jesper up in here. But it's fine, whatever. I guess they needed to show Jesper's like flirty nature. But in the books, he's like a flirt, but he also takes like a book and a half to ask Waylon out. So I don't know if he would be the type to just like sleep with a random stable hand. But also he's much younger in the books. So I mean, that one's not a big deal, but don't cheat on your husband, sir. Okay, Jesper, please. The only thing I didn't like about Jesper's characterization was his relationship with Kaz. So like in the first episode, like when Kaz is introduced with Jesper, Jesper's like looks very afraid of Kaz. And I was like, huh, weird, because Jesper's supposed to be in love with Kaz. Like that's canon in the books that he's in love with Kaz. And so showing him afraid was a bit weird. Jesper doesn't have enough self-preservation to be afraid of Kaz, but okay. But I thought like they would show maybe like the growth, the character development from Jesper being afraid to him falling in love. This is a prequel, so maybe that's like the arc that they wanted to go with their friendship, but that didn't really happen. Like they show him kind of afraid in the first episode. By the end, I don't know if he's afraid or not, but they definitely didn't show like him falling in love. They didn't show like much friendship between the two either. Like it still very much felt like a gang leader, boss, and underling relationship between the two. Like in the books, Jesper and Kaz like joke around a lot together. Like I'll hire someone to burn my crew, I'll hire someone to hire someone to burn my crew, you know, like they make jokes together. They're like, Kaz fucking, you know, doesn't care about anyone, but like they're friends, and Jesper's in love with him, and Kaz deep down likes Jesper, but I don't feel like we got that relationship from them in the TV show. It definitely felt like a boss underling sort of relationship. So that was the only aspect I was disappointed in for Jesper, but everything else I thought they did a great job with. Still think it's wild to see Jesper like out here fighting Grisha, but you know, it's fine, whatever. I think Jesper was definitely more of the comedic relief in this show. I think in the original books, they all of the 6 dregs like joke around and have a good time, you know, despite it being very dark. I think in here, because Alina's storyline is so dark and they don't have the other dregs to play off of, Jesper ends up doing a lot of the jokes, which is fine. I just can't wait until Matthais comes in with everyone and then they're all shitting on him, because that's always a fun time. I most part enjoyed Jesper's characterization in the TV show, and I thought they did a fun time with his storyline. And Jesper and Milo, 5 amazing. I feel like a teenage girl who wants like a giant poster of Jesper hugging the goat with little like hearts on it, and just like hang it on my wall and get a daily dose of serotonin from it, because amazing. Okay. Anyways, next topic. Let's go with Inej next. The love of my life. I feel like Amita Surta did a great job portraying Inej. She was like such a good actor. I loved her so much. I loved seeing Inej on screen. I think they changed a lot of her backstory, some of which I don't understand why they changed it. Other of it makes sense. So, for example, they changed her whole how she got freed from the menagerie, and that makes sense because in the TV show, Kaz is the boss of the dregs, versus in the books, he is just an underling. And so in the books, him paying off Inej's debt in the menagerie has made him under debt with the leader of the dregs per Haskell. And so Inej can't leave until she pays off that debt, or else Kaz would go under for it. And so that's why like she's still beholden to Ketterdam and to the dregs and all that in the books. But obviously in the TV show, Kaz is the leader of the dregs, so they can't really have that happen without it being nasty. Kaz not letting her be free from Ketterdam after he paid her debt. That would be a bad move in the romance department. Unhealthy relationships. We don't like that. And so instead, they made it so Kaz can't pay off his entire debt. Like he's just slowly paying it off to Tante Helene. So Inej is kind of shared between Kaz and Tante Helene. So that made sense on why they changed that all. It brought an interesting dynamic of like Inej is not 100% yet free from the menagerie, and Kaz already put down his shares to the Crow Club to free Inej, or to allow her to come on this mission with them. So that was wild. So they changed like that whole portion of her backstory, so she's not yet free. But they also like added her a brother, which I was like, why'd they give her a brother who was also kidnapped? And they only mentioned it in like one line, and then it's never mentioned again. So I thought that was kind of wild. Like, what was the point of that? Was that needed? I don't know how I feel about that. I'm sure they'll probably use it for a plot point in a future season, I guess. But what was the point of adding her, like giving her a brother? Okay. But in terms of like characters, as this is a prequel, I thought they did a good job. Like, I liked the fact that at the beginning of the story she hadn't killed anyone yet. Like, when we start Six of Crows, she's been with the dregs for a few years now, and she has killed, and she talks about how she does penance for that, and she remembers like the first time she ever had to kill someone, she like sobbed and sobbed. So I liked that in this like prequel of Six of Crows, we see her like before she's ever killed someone, and you see that like throughout the entire story. Her killing her first Grisha and like the like pain and sadness that's behind her eyes, and then when she kills the sister of the Grisha, she realizes she has no choice because this person will not stop hunting her. So I thought that was well done. I still think I know I've said this before, but I think it's wild that they were fighting Grisha, but whatever. Anyways, skipping over that. So I thought that portion of her storyline was done super well. I liked to see like that makes sense for a prequel to show that development for Inej. I loved seeing her faith in the saints. That's a big part of Inej's character in the books, and like she actually gets to meet Alina. Like she gets to meet a saint, someone she like truly really believes in. And so I loved seeing her faith throughout the TV show. I think they did a really good job portraying that. And it just like every single time like Kaz or Jesper or anyone was like, Inej, you're so dumb for believing in this, I was like, fuck you. Inej will prove you wrong. I love seeing her open and honest faith, and I thought that was done super, super well. So the one thing I didn't super like about Inej, I wouldn't say it was bad, but it was just like something I wish that they added, was they didn't like really show Inej as super mature. Like in the book, she's always described as really, really mature, and like how she spouts all these words of wisdom all the time. Like she always talks about these silly proverbs, and she didn't drop a single proverb in the show at all, which I thought was a shame. Like they literally titled one of the episodes "The Heart is an Arrow," and they didn't even like have her say that quote. Like obviously that quote comes in much later in the timeline, then why name the episode that? And like, yeah, she didn't do any silly proverbs, so I thought that was disappointing. But other than that, I love Inej, love him in my life. I think they did a really good job. I think the actress was amazing and really conveyed these struggles that Inej went through. And I screamed every time she was on screen. So overall, loved that. So next up, Cos Brecker, Dirty Hands, the bastard of the barrel. Yeah, so in the TV show, Cos is already the head of the Dregs, unlike in the books where he's just an underling. So he has a bit more power, though it seems like the Dregs aren't as prominent of a gang as they are in the books. Like the Dregs rival the Dime Lions, who are Pekka Rollin's gang in the books. Versus a show, it definitely seems like Pekka Rollin's gang has much more power, considering he was able to break in and like fight Cos in the first episode, which is wild. I can't believe Cos was defeated by like 3 men. That seems wrong, but okay. This is supposed to be a prequel, so maybe Cos isn't as badass yet. But anyways, I thought Freddie did a great job like showing, like characterizing Cos. I think I really liked his like scheming face when he's like looking around the Crow Club and like trying to figure out who would be able to help him. Like scheming face was good. I loved Cos's outfits. I think they were on point for Cos. I think that was just like all of the outfits in the show, like the budget on the show was amazing. The outfits were great. Like everything was good. But like that is how I imagined Cos to dress, like hella like just business fashion on point Cos Brecker. So I think Cos and Inej's relationship was changed, probably the biggest change of this show, and I didn't hate it. Like I love Inej. I'm the biggest Inej shipper, so every time they were being cute on screen, I was squealing and crying and dying on the inside. Loved that. But it's also like wild. Like in episode 1, Cos says there's no one like you, Inej. And I'm like, damn, you already in love with her. Like this entire season, he's just so in love with her and he treats her well. Which kind of, like, I loved it. I love to see it on screen. But it's kind of like, what is the plot of the next 2 seasons going to be with Cos and Inej? Because in the books, Cos pretty much treats her like shit for the entire first book, and that's like the biggest source of their conflict and the development that goes on in their relationship. Because, and I've kind of made a whole ass video about Inej and talked about all of that stuff, so I'll link that above. But like basically Inej's entire struggle with Cos is like, this is the boy who saves her and she's such a good person, she wants to believe that he is worth saving as well, versus Cos believes that he's beyond redemption and doesn't even give a fuck, and he treats Inej like shit, and she knows that like it's not okay to be treated that way. And so like that's their whole struggle of her like trying to decide whether this boy is worth giving a chance to and worth saving. And Cos, on the other hand, is like, you know, treating her real bad, and he eventually grows to realize that like that's not okay. He genuinely loves this woman. And like the first, like in 6 of Crows, he doesn't even let him feel that way, like let himself even consider Inej until she like almost dies, and then he's like, oh shit. And then he still like represses it a lot. And so like in the TV show, he's like in love with her from the beginning. Like he treats her really, really well in the TV show. Like, he's saying all these cute-ass romantic things, like, please don't go, Inej. Your saints watch over you, and, like, you watch over me. Also, he mentioned that, like, Jesper watches over him. So, like, he's very much more, like, emotional and nice. Like, they still tried to show him kind of like Kaz, like, but he was not nearly as much of a monster or an asshole. I'm, like, not mad about it because, of course, I enjoyed seeing Inej on screen. I loved it. I loved it so much. I love seeing Kaz worship Inej as the queen that she is. But, like, that's not their dynamic until, like, mid-book 2. And so I don't know what they're gonna do with the remaining seasons, like the development between those characters. I think that will be very, very interesting to see. Overall, I think Freddie did a good job with Kaz. He was definitely softer, I guess, partly because he was, like, already in love with Inej, but just in general, you didn't get, like, that monster cruel vibe from him yet. Maybe we'll get that more in the other seasons, but, like, we didn't get, like, monologues about how much he loves money and monologues about how much he is a monster yet, which he does a lot in the books, y'all. Like, we didn't see him threaten a little girl. We didn't see him, like, brutally torture people yet. I don't know if they're going to show that or not in season 2, so we'll see. But yeah, he didn't seem as, like, awful in the TV show, and so kind of want to see more of his, like, awful side, because, like, Kaz is not a good person. We all know this, and it would be nice to see more of that in the TV show. So next up, Nina and Matthais. I'm kind of going to talk about them together because they were pretty much together the entire time. And this was the part of the story that was most accurate to the books because they basically took their backstory in the books and put it in the TV show. And I thought the Nina and Matthais stuff was so well done. The actors had so much chemistry for Nina and Matthais, which is amazing because, like, it's a hard story to do. I generally am not the biggest fan of enemies to lovers, and I also pretty much hate it all the time when you have, like, a person from an oppressed class falling in love with a person from, like, the oppressor class. Like, that's generally just nasty dynamics altogether, and I'm not a big fan. And Six of Crows is the only book ever that has made me like that with Nina and Matthais. Pretty much everyone else, every other time I've read that dynamic, I've hated it. And they do a really good job with it in Six of Crows duology. And I think a lot of that transferred over to the screen. I like how they, initially showed Nina as justifiably angry against Matthais, and they also made Matthais a little bit softer. Like, he was joking around much earlier in the series with Nina, and I thought their initial, flirty banter was just done so well, because that's also really hard to translate if you don't have the proper chemistry between actors. I think making Matthais a bit softer was a good move, because in the books he has a lot of hatred and anger initially at the beginning toward Grisha due to his parents being killed, and it makes sense because his age in the books, he's 18, he's a child soldier who's brainwashed into all of this, and that's definitely it's not justifiable, but it's definitely more understandable for him being a child and having all of this hatred and anger because he was brainwashed into believing these sorts of things. Versus in the TV show, he is much older. I don't know how old they decided to age everyone up, but they're friggin' adults. And so if they had made Matthais so angry and so full of hatred, I think it would be harder to buy that redemption arc for him. And so I'm glad they made him softer at the beginning, and I think we'll probably see him be super angry after he gets out of Hellgate, and then maybe we'll see more of that full on redemption arc. But I like that they didn't make him super angry right at the beginning. The one thing I didn't like for Matthais' arc was there was a scene with the Darkling and Ivan, and they talk about how Nina was captured by a bunch of Druskill, and one of them is so badass, and his name is Matthais Helver. And I didn't like that at all. I much would have preferred if Matthais was more unknown like he is in the books. Like he's just a soldier. Like, yeah, he was trained by Brum, but all of the Druskill were. And while he's a very good soldier, he hasn't, like, you know, made a name for himself that the fucking Darkling or, like, you know, the generals of Ravka would know who he is. And just making him, like, bigger in that sense is kind of bad, because that means he's worse. That means he's killed more Grisha or whatever. So I didn't like that, and I kind of just wish they, like, cut out that scene. Like, it wasn't needed. It didn't really add anything. We learned Matthais' name, like, 5 minutes later. So, like, y'all didn't need that. Yeah, I didn't like that. But overall, other than that, I loved Matthais. I thought the actor who played him did so well. So, Nina. Like I mentioned, I love Nina. I thought the actress did a great job with her fun, flirty Nina. Her and Matthais' chemistry, so good. Nina got her waffles. I liked how she showed that justifiable anger toward the Druskill and everything that's happened. So overall, I genuinely really, really loved Nina. But, so I was really annoyed at the beginning of the show when they first introduced Nina, because they're talking about how she's, you know, helping people escape from the little palace. And I was like, fuck no, that is not Nina. She would never betray her country, ever, ever in a million years. So when they first introduced that, I was like, no, don't like this. But then they turned it around and made it so that Nina was actually a spy for the Darkling, is trying to figure out who's, like, helping these people escape. I was like, okay, much, much better. Love that for her. That makes sense. Terms of storyline. Nina's always wanted to be, like, a badass, super cool spy. Like, she loves that shit, so that makes sense. Like that. And so it was all doing good. Like, most of Nina and Matthais' story is directly straight from the book, besides the ending where Matthais gets captured, and that is the part that pisses me off the most. Probably out of everything that happens. This one they didn't need to change at all. They literally could have taken it straight from the books. So, in the show, Nina and Matthais are in Ravka. They go down to get some waffles, and then some Grisha notice Matthais, knock him out, and they're like, hey, yo, Nina, we're gonna arrest this guy and kill him because he's a Druskill. And she's like, no, we're good now, so don't do that. And they're like, well, either he comes with us right now, or you're, like, betraying our country. And then she basically then calls, you know, Matthais a slaver in order to get him and her out of there. And that's why she, you know, ends up calling him a slave, and he gets captured, and they, go off, and she escapes the Ravkins. That's not how it happens in the books at all. In the books, they're in I can't pronounce Fajerda. I always call it Fajerda in my head. I know that's not right. I know they say something else in the TV show. But anyways, Matthais' country. They're in Matthais' country. And he's like, okay, it's not safe for you here. We're gonna find a way to sneak you out. Let's, like, meet at these docks and get, you know, you on a boat. Like, let's get on a boat and go. So, like, Matthais is basically betraying his country to get Nina out of there. And then Nina realizes there's a secret Ravkin operation in this town. And they recognize her, and they're like, hey, yo, why are you with this Druskill? Okay, we'll come and pick him up, arrest him, and get him back to Ravka and all of that stuff. And she basically, she doesn't do this in front of them, but basically she has 3 choices. She could either, like, let the Ravkins take Matthais, where he would probably be killed or put in jail. She could tell Matthais that there's a Ravkin operation there so he can escape. Like, she has the option to tell him and he can escape. And then there's the third option of the slaver ships that she ends up taking. And the whole point was that Nina would not betray her country. Like, she could have told Matthais about this. Like, he had the ability to be free. But she loves her country so much that she would never, ever risk the Ravkin operation that's occurring there. And so she doesn't tell him. And instead, she picks the choice to brand him as a slaver and get him and her arrested, or get him arrested. And so, like, Nina's love for her country is strong, but in the show, she basically betrays her country. Like, she's in Ravka, full of Ravkin, like, full of the Ravkin Grisha, and she literally to their face betrays them. And that just, like, that's the complete opposite of what Nina would have done. And so I hated that. I hated that part so much. And, like, in the books, Nina has the option to go back to Ravka anytime she wanted to. Like, she stays in Ketterdam to free Matthais. And that's the only reason she stays there. Otherwise, she could have taken a ship and gone back to Ravka and been fine. But now she doesn't have that option because she betrayed the country. So is her staying in Ketterdam isn't as much of a sacrifice in a way that she's proving to right her wrongs as it would have been. So yeah, that part of the show really pissed me off because otherwise, like, Nina Matthais' arc would have been basically perfect. And so, I don't know why they did that. Show writers. I ranted a bit, didn't I? Overall, though, I did genuinely really like this show. I do think you have to think of it as fanfiction, like AU fanfiction. That's completely different than the books. I think it was so much fun to see the dregs on screen, and I think they did, like, a good job of their dynamics. Like, that scene where they talk about, oh, how was the train ride? And they're like, oh, it was fine. And then you flash back to, like, everyone screaming and running and, like, Jesper hugging the goat and, like, Inej going Saints, and it was just, like, so hilarious. And that's, like, they nailed down that dynamic of the dregs perfectly. So I thought that was great. I think all the actresses and actors, like, they casted it so well, like, super well. They definitely got that Netflix budget because everything looked gorgeous. So there were just a few, like, characterization things that I didn't really like. I knew the plot was going to change. Like, I don't like the fact that Kaz and the Darkling had to fight, but, like, I understand why they did it because they needed to merge these two storylines together. So that was fine. Like, I was mentally prepared for that. But I didn't like some of the small characterization changes that they made because that you didn't really need to change. Like, they could have kept the characters the same. They could have kept the characterization more consistent. Like, it wasn't bad. It was like 90% there, and then they changed like 10% of things for the characterization, and you're like, but you could have had 100% characterization and just changed the plot. Anyways, so overall, I still love this show. Like, I thought it slapped. I thought it was great. I'm definitely going to probably reread all of Six of Crows and now that I've watched the show because, oh my god, so good. And then maybe I'll rewatch the show. I don't know. It was good. I enjoyed it a lot. It wasn't perfect. I didn't expect it to be. So that's kind of my thoughts. Hopefully this video isn't too long and too ranty. And yeah, thank you all so much for watching. Bye.